part of what I encourage everybody to do as a writer is to have a group of varied experiences, people in your life, give you feedback and be open to the feedback, because we tend to write in our own voice, and I do, and some people don't love that, and they have the right not to. It's if you get enough people from different places and ask them, what did you get from it? What was missing? Not how did you like it, but
we have a return to Writing with Authors, a good friend of mine, and she's got 11 books, everyone. So buckle up for a fun return right here on Writing with Authors. Debbie, thank you so much for coming back on.
Hi, Vin. Happy to be here. Thanks for including me.
Of course. She's got so much to cover, and we're talking behind the scenes about maybe some misbeliefs that people have when they become an author. So we will get to that and so much more, but I want to welcome you, whether you're live streaming or catching us when it's released, to Writing with Authors. My name is Vincent A. Lanci, and today we are joined by Debbie Lundberg. I've got her website here on the bottom if you're following along to check her out as the show goes along. But as I mentioned, Debbie's incredibly successful, not just in the books world, but in the entrepreneurial space. We met back in 2015, and of late, she gave me my book review on the back of I Want to Start a Podcast, so that's been a lot of fun. But for today, we're not talking about my books. We're talking about Debbie's. Debbie, let's go back to your very first book. Walk us through that release and putting it together.
Oh my, thank you. And yes, congratulations again on your latest book. So it was funny because some of your viewers and listeners know that I was with General Motors before I started my firm Presenting Powerfully. And Vin, you've heard this story, but it was probably a long time ago when you heard it. So I was on with a guy I really enjoyed. So I was in the region in Chicago, had those 12 states. And so we were buying advertising. And so I got off the phone with this guy, again, really great guy. And I made a purchase, and he said, okay, have a nice weekend. Or he said, have a nice day. And it was a Friday. And I hung up the phone and I said, you know what? Have a nice day is not thank you. Because I thought, like he just assumed that I was going to make this purchase. And I had an admin at the time, and she said, you always say funny things like that. You should write a book. And she said, you know what else you always say is, no problem is not your welcome. And she said, I learned from this. This was 20 years ago.
Sure.
And so when I left, and I loved working at GM, it was nothing bad. I retired and did that. And it was great to start my practice. I kept remembering that. And so I thought, I'm going to write a book someday. Well, then I got a little bit distracted by thinking, you know what? All these people come out of college and they're not clear on what to do in the business world. So my idea was to write a book called You've Got the Job, Now What? Now, you might not even know this part, Vin. So I hired a writing coach who worked with authors, and she was in California. And she walked me through all these steps, how to do all the research and the title. And what I found by her great coaching was there were tons of books out about that. And so there wasn't a market for it. So in the process of befriending her and really learning a lot, all to her credit, she let me know she was retiring, and she sold me, or really practically gifted me, the whole process that she had for how to write a book. And in the early part of my practice, I worked with some people and assisted them with writing books based on what I'd received from her. So my first book didn't happen because there wasn't really a market for it. I ended up buying all these really cool books about when you get into your first job, and then gifting them to people and friends. And so that was a long and exciting and depressing experience, because I thought I had such a novel idea. The reason I tell you that is, we all have great ideas, and not many are truly, truly, truly original, but it's important to have that niche. So then when I was remembering that have a nice day is not thank you comment, that became my first book. And it was have a nice day is not thank you, and no problem is not your welcome. And that became a 3-part series that eventually, a few years later, got melded together by the most popular parts of it into reversing the Slavification of America, which is something I'm known for, that trademark and that comment. So that first book experience was to remind everybody, it's okay if there's a lot of noise in that space. If you want to fight your way upstream, go for it, because you might really make it.
Right.
For me, the learning was, there's so much in this that's saturated. Let me go in a different direction. So that part was fun. Now, my first book signing, I will tell you, there was a mistake on the outer cover, which was really upsetting. And we had these huge posters, but it was already set to go. And so we moved forward with it. And I talked at the signing about, sometimes you make a mistake, you got to own it. So I think in all of what you're probably hearing is, I had a lot of lessons to learn.
I love everything you shared there. And even with my first book, so much pressure, the itty bitty committee in my head. And even when you buy books and read them, more often than not, I'll find a comma mistake or a misspelt word that authors, they're blind to the eye and they don't see it. But I love how we're talking about the first book, because when you launch your first book, we often have these ideas of how successful this single book will make us in our lives and completely change the financial aspect of our lives, when it does maybe many other things besides that immediate bottom line. Let's talk about it.
Yes, let's talk about that. I was very fortunate that one of my clients said, I want to host this party for you. And it's sold out. I mean, there were 150 people, and we had the books ordered with the mistake, as you said, and it was so exciting. But let me tell you this. I did think, wow, this is an amazing, on this incredible Saturday, like, life has changed. And it did. At the same time, I was signing the books, and it was a beautiful day, and we were here in Florida, and I was sweating. I mean, I was excited, but there was this pretty sun shining, and I was sweating. So I used a napkin, and a few signs after I used the napkin, one of my friends said, hey, you have something here. And it was part of the napkin in my sweaty face. And so that was humbling. And I was thinking, yeah, but it's going to, this is the start of it. Here's 150 books sold. And here's, it's just going to keep going and going. And this was 2007. So this was before the Amazon, see if you're a bestseller on Amazon type of thing. But I just thought, it's never going to end. And now I'm going to be on this tour, and now I'm going to speak on this all the time. And I'd already had a nice practice. And I don't mean to sound like I wasn't excited with my practice. At the same time, I thought, wow, it's going to be challenging to manage all this, and it's going to be so successful personally, professionally. But this, unless you're a best-selling author, truly, of often a self-help that's like a Simon Sinek or some of these that are just really life-changing for many people, or you write fiction, and it's the Rawlings and the Harry Potters that are these series, there's really not a lot of profitability in a book. The value gained and the success, and where you really see it, is what you do with it, that being a published author or utilizing them for giveaways. But the other part, I think I might have shared this once before on your show, is the next day was a Sunday, and my husband and I play golf for who mows the lawn. So whoever loses mows the lawn. And I was mowing the lawn the next day, and I said, this is a big difference. I mean, I go from this book signing to out here, sweating and mowing the lawn and rocks kicking up. And my husband said, it's a new day, Deb. He's like, every day is a new day. And it was a funny thing, but it's the perspective of textbooks. Now, I will tell you, I have clients who've written textbooks. Textbooks are very profitable if you get them in, and then you have updates, because we're changing the minds and the direction of people in the world, and they're learning it in a very organized, structured way. So if you're going to do it and you think it's money, it's textbooks, or somehow figure out the next Harry Potter, or figure out the really big self-help change. Otherwise, use your books to share your message and to thank people, to have them as giveaways, to have them as introductions. Like if you meet someone and you mail it to them, it's a Yeah, it costs you a little bit, but people are surprised by it. So yes, not a ton of money in the type of books, but a ton of joy. And when people come up and say, hey, I read your book and it changed my life. Now that's pretty cool.
It's definitely amazing to hear. And I look at the book as it opened up a lot more doors. It's a level of credibility, that expertise. And now as we coach people, becoming that authoritative figure in these areas. But Debbie's a great example where who cares if it's a crowded field? If you're authentic, your books will get to where they need to go. And that always has inspired me since we connected. We're just put your work out there, be yourself, and you're targeting the right people. They'll come to you. But now from 1 book to 11 books, right? Let's talk about the most recent book.
Well, the most interestingly enough, and this is something that you and I didn't talk about. So the most recent of books, I've been included in 2 other people's books, and that's exciting because they've asked me to participate. So the Living Kindly book by Lee Clark, where she's become quite a genius on getting these compilation books where she picks a theme and she has people write a chapter. So Living Kindly came out after my kidney donation, and I'm wearing a living kidney donor pin because it's donor month this month that we're recording it. And she invited me to do that. And it was really thoughtful of her because I said, well, can I write about that? Because I feel like that's a demonstration of kindness. I have a philosophy, and I'm telling you, Ben, being part of that compilation and reading other people's perspective on a similar topic was really enjoyable, and it brought together a lot of different minds. And then a physician asked me if I would write about the mindset because she's doing so much with overall health and well-being, and how resiliency is important and kindness is important. So I like bragging on other people and the fact that they have this great talent, and yet they're smart and humble and thoughtful enough to include other people in their works. So my latest, it's been quite a while ago, Beyond Networking 101 and things like that. They're still timely. And yet as I see books like yours about podcasts, and yours was so clear as a workbook. I did one years ago with Todd Josko, and we called it, Hey, Where's My Bailout? When people were getting bailed out, and the ways to bail yourself out. So thank you for asking about my most recent. It's those getting asked, like when I read yours and got to give that blurb for your cover. I feel like that's something I'm touched by now, being included.
Yeah, well, the book is simply something I'm proud of. And Debbie's got her own podcast, of course. We'll have her share that contact information in just a little bit. But before we let her go, these shows are right to the point, so they have to include just a bit of writing advice for our audience, whether they're a newbie like we were or they're a seasoned writer, something you could add value to our audience with.
Absolutely. Love your show that you give the advice and thinking about what other people have said. I don't want to be redundant. So part of what I encourage everybody to do as a writer is to have a group of varied experiences, people in your life, give you feedback and be open to the feedback, because we tend to write in our own voice, and I do, and some people don't love that and they have the right not to. It's if you get enough people from different places and ask them, what did you get from it? What was missing? Not how did you like it, but true feedback that says, when I read what you wrote, I gained this, and based on what you wrote, I'm willing or able now to do X. And if they miss the mark on it, look at yourself and what you might have missed, not that they didn't get it, because people learn differently and we tend to write in one voice. So you could broaden your voice with different words.
Love the advice. Have your support group, your advanced readers, and be mindful of what you're asking them to do based on their talents and their skill sets in life. For example, there are certain people I want to give them the book to read. Some I want to give them a chapter, some for punctuation and grammar. So I love that advice. Debbie, I've got your website right here. But before I ask for your other socials and stuff, let's talk about your podcast. She's going to be on Pod O'Clock. We're coming back in June, so she'll be on this summer. Let's talk about your awesome show, because it was my first guest appearance, probably I think 2019, maybe something, right before mine launched, and it inspired me. Said, I got to get my butt into gear here. this is going to be the future, and she led the wave. So let's talk more.
Well, thank you. So Barb Zant, my podcast partner, deserves the credit on that, because Barb and I have worked together through, and she's open and okay with my saying this. So she was a client of mine over 10 years. And she said to me, she was interested in doing a podcast. And we were in one of our coaching sessions. And she said, have you ever thought about doing it? And I said, I would love to do a podcast. I don't want to do all the work that it takes to do it. And so I don't like when people say they're too busy, as you know. So I said, I'm not prioritizing that. She said, what if I got it together? Could we do it together? And I said, yes. And I hope this doesn't sound too forceful, but I said, I would do it on a couple of conditions. Number one, if we ask the same questions of every guest. And number two, if we do what I, in my mind, was called a follow through. If we took what the guests said and then we implemented them and then we reported back. And to Barb's credit, she said, love it. I love it. And I said, but I'm not necessarily going to do all that behind the scenes, figuring out how to get it up, not because my time's more valuable than yours, sure, simply because it's less of a priority. Well, then I cannot tell you enough about how the Business of Life Masterclass is now in our 6th season.
Yeah.
We've had our producer, Brianna, the whole time. Barb has figured out every which way to get it out there. And you've been a guest. We celebrated over 250 episodes. And we've expanded those 4 questions to ask 7, really. What are people excited about? Their walk-up music, walk-off music, and our what we call the podcast 4. So the Business of Life Masterclass podcast is in full swing. We have some exciting guests coming up, as a matter of fact, here in our 6th season. And if people are interested in a podcast, do the work with someone like you. I know you didn't ask me to promote that, because if Barb hadn't done all of that, I wouldn't be sitting here as a podcast co-host. So it often takes more than one person.
I love that. And it's a huge team. And for me, I had an unpaid full-time job for about 2.5 years until I could finally find a way to, as a solopreneur, start with the assistant, then get an audio person, and slowly build out the team now. So I'm very grateful you came back on the show, Debbie. A lot of value there. Be sure to check out her podcast. I have her website here, debbielundberg.com. Is there anything else that you have going on this summer as this airs that we can look forward to?
You know, this summer, as this airs, we're very much about raising fund money for the Tampa Kidney Walk. And my husband and I, both being living kidney donors, because we lost our home and most of our possessions in Hurricane Helene, we're turning tragedy into triumph. And we're doing a lot of fun fundraisers. So we just did a sledgehammer. People could donate and smash the wall. We've got to throw a brick through the glass coming up. So it's not really related to podcasts necessarily or writing. And yet we show up as a whole person, and we had that experience. And instead of letting it get us down, we're attempting to lift up others through a little bit of fun with the fundraiser. So thanks for asking.
If there's any aspiring writers out there, going to this event may give you a lot of creativity here. Well, you're going to see a lot of people from a lot of backgrounds. Debbie, thank you for sharing that and for all you do for us here in Tampa and around the country. Again, I've got her website right there. It's debbielundberg.com. My name is Vincent A. Lanci, and this is Writing with Authors. Please remember to subscribe to catch the next episode as we are continuing to air amazing authors just like Debbie. Again, my name is Vincent A. Lanci. This is Writing with Authors, and today's show is brought to you by John Ford, empathyset.com. He has an empathy app in the App Store. Card set, all things empathy to help us entrepreneurs and writers stay level afloat. John's an amazing guy. You got to connect with him, johnford.com as well. And with that, we're signing off, both of us here in the Tampa Bay area. Debbie, thank you so much.
Thank you.